Hello, my name is
Hello.
Professor Ivaina Makulamayanja. I'm the assistant professor at Carleton University in the Institute of Interdisciplinary Studies. And today I'm interviewing one of my colleagues in the DRC, trying to explore these issues of mining, green energy, and their impact on people in the DRC. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Professor. I'm happy to be here and to be here with you, exchanging on those very important topics that concern the life of my people here in DRC. I am Jean Nyembongoy. I'm a Congolese, and I've been working in Lubumbashi for the past 6 years, heading a research center there, and that focuses mainly on mining governance and all the issues pertaining to mining, but also other social issues like democracy, political, let's say, participation, civic education, all the questions relating to elections, just a way of raising people awareness on their responsibility as they have to take part into the building of a sustainable society. So currently I live in the western part of the country, in a province called Congo Central, and I stay in Kisantu city.
Thank you. You're most welcome. And thank you very much for accepting to do this recording, sharing the experiences and the broad understanding that you have about mining, governance, and the politics of Congo. We both know how complex all these issues are. And today we are talking so much about transitioning to renewable energy, for example, using electronic vehicles, solar panels, and wind turbines. They are all important, we are told, for mitigating climate change. However, we know that making these equipments require minerals and metal, including copper, cobalt, graphite, uranium. And the DRC happens to have about 70% of global cobalt, 60% of copper, and is rich with graphite, gold, uranium, and all other minerals that are needed to make this transition and to the entire narrative of technological advancement. So as a researcher, what do you observe in the mines where those minerals are being taken from?
Thank you very much for that very good and very important question. I'll start with a short consideration before I go deep in the question. And this is about the choice you have made on the question, a phrase that you have used, we are told. And I guess this is your very deliberate choice. And at the outset, I would like to note that the issues we are about to address in this conversation are both critically important for our peoples and also remain very poorly understood because of the deliberate opacity that prevails in the mining governance field. That is to say, I am already going to approach these issues, I would say, with a certain amount of skepticism regarding some of the claims. I want to stress on that. Some of the claims we encounter regularly. Here is an example, for instance, reacting to an invitation to protect our forests. A native of the equatorial forests once said, they have cut down all their trees and killed all the wild animals. Now they come to ask us to feed, not to feed ourselves. That was his reaction regarding the invitation he was given to stop destroying the environment. That said, we all approach statements such as your question, transitioning to renewable energy, for example, by using electronic vehicles, solar panels, and wind turbines, is important to mitigate climate change. And when we think of such questions, we look at them from a Western perspective, especially when you talk to people, they have other questions and other preoccupations. But I'd rather focus on a more African perspective as I try to respond to that question. And what comes into my mind usually is when we talk about, green transition or mitigating climate change, or let's say working for a proper environment, who are the beneficiaries, the first beneficiaries, especially when we think of these new technologies that will come into play. Thinking of electric cars and all other technological changes, who will be most affected, let's say, who will benefit from these changes. And I would tend to guess, when I look at the level of life of my people here around, I don't see for the next 10 years to come, like an electric car in Congolese compounds. And, I was checking the other day in Kinshasa, just to find out that there are only a few cars. Actually, I've seen, and I've even used one, a few electric cars that are used as cabs, but they are to be counted on the fingers of one hand. So it should take a lot of time to become the reality of the people here on the ground. So talking about this, we'll be mainly looking at what is good for us as we are talking about these changes to respond to the climate change. What do I see in the mining sector here in Congo currently? What's happening? I just remember an incident that happened while COVID-19 was hitting the world. And in Haut-Katanga and Lualaba, there was a number of mining companies that have decided to confine their workers so as not to stop the production of minerals, in total negligence of the protection of the measures enacted for the people, to protect the people. And while local and international flights were suspended, we could see planes arriving at the Luano airport. Luano is the airport of Lubumbashi, the international airport in Lubumbashi, with cohorts of mining operators with, excuse me the expression, but somehow some kind of Asian appearances. So people were arriving while all the movement in and out of the country were suspended, but it was mainly to go to work in the mines. And those raised a lot of attention and curiosity and questions at the same time, and especially going back to the mining site where many people are confined in very, very difficult health conditions. So my center, at that moment, the center I was heading, Arupe Center, and some local and international NGOs working in the mining sector, we wrote a letter to companies concerned. There were total 10 companies that we received that letter, asking them actually to consider the welfare of the workers first, because that was not the issue. So the conditions and what we see in these mining companies and enterprises is like the focus is about production, having minerals that will be taken to other countries for transformation and eventually to have what is needed in the Western world to produce, let's say, electric cars and so on and so forth. But what it leaves behind, it is just a disaster, because when you look at the environment is being destroyed. Just to give you an example, just to have one mining site to start operating in an area where that was covered by trees, for instance, the first thing that they do is cutting down all the trees that are around. Even though we know in the cycle of mining operations, you have the exploration and the feasibility side, let's say, step, and then the development and construction, and then mining operation, which is the production step. And when they finish, you think of the closure and the reclamation or the rehabilitation. None of these respecting environment is done. Trees are cut, they will dig holes everywhere, depending on the type of the mining operation. Can be open pit mining or underground mining, but all these involve, like, let's say, violating the earth by, or either by explosions or other ways of exploiting. And that creates a certain imbalance in the nature, the way the earth is organized. Now, if it happens in the cases where a mine is to close, usually they will close and leave the place and leave that space the way it is. Right now, if you visit places like Kolwezi, there are many spaces like that. So where you find that after mining exploitation, you have space, huge space of land that is kind of abandoned with holes and, an environment that nothing can grow. If you want to start planting trees, or nothing can grow there, or even if you find water, that water cannot be consumed. But back to industries, or let's say companies that are still working, the conditions, human conditions, or the conditions of the workers are not respected at all. Like the case I gave you, and we are obliged to write a letter to these companies to alert them on the conditions people were working in, with the risk of contracting the COVID-19 for that period. But these days, we might be confronted to other types of problems. And usually workers, Congo right now is a lot of problem. People just rush into mining because they have some money, but compared to what they could get if all the rights were respected and the conditions were respected, the gap is very huge. And most people live there with, a lot of health problems, and they don't have the coverage that is needed for them to be cured or restored. And then you find in some places even still the use of women and children, even in some mines, which violates completely the rights of the categories of people who might be vulnerable, like sick women, or those who are pregnant, or who are in some conditions. Those are not respected at all. Not even to mention other social responsibilities of these a number of enterprises, that they will leave a space, but no sign of development around. So there is a big imbalance here between what companies take out of the country. Kabila, Laurent Désiré Kabila, who was one of our former president, who was killed, he used this expression that Congo was bleeding white. That means a lot of minerals going out, but nothing coming in. And the conditions of the people around were not just improved. So that brought a lot of problems, and a lot of questions are still raised today as we look at mining exploitation in the Congo.
Thank you. That's an eye-opener. And actually, it has reminded me that this exploitation has been going on for hundreds of years since the colonial period. And in addition to that, when I did my research in South Kivu and even partly in Goma, I remember I saw like Banro, a Canadian mining company, had open pits where people had fallen, cows and mosquitoes were all breeding from those open pits. And when they left, those pits are still open. They displaced the communities and put them on a hill where people cannot even access water and food. And as we have already said, then between you and me, is then how can we talk about green energy in Congo? How can women and children who are exploited in those mines even dream about, what they're doing will help them to better their living conditions when they are continuously exploited? It would be very interesting to know, I don't know whether you still remember, for example, what are some of the mining companies working in Katanga, exploiting this gold, copper, graphite, etc.?
Yeah, it's quite difficult to talk about, really, as you mentioned, green transition right now, because as you know, there is a big chain and all the points in that chain are connected. And when we talk about mining activities, the problem I have it, the way it is done in Congo, people tend to think, or they want to make us believe, that it can work well while the whole context in general is completely disrupted. When you look at the history of the Congo, you just mentioned that these have been going for years. And as you mentioned, the expression you used, it is also an eye-opener. Why is that the Congo has been politically and socially unstable for all these years along? It's because people are not able to sit and work for their own good, the good of their country and their institutions, or there is other things. I don't want to enter into some theories that people don't like, but look, just let us take a minute to look at the facts. It is like this instability is connected to exploitation, which has been going for forever. What brought the Belgians in the Congo actually was not only minerals, let to say, but also all what they could get at that time during King Leopold II reign. It was more of rubber. Europe was in need of rubber. And to collect rubber from the forests of Congo, they had an amount that each, let's say, harvester was to bring or to present per day. And if you were not able to do that, you had your hands cut. And there was already at that period a certain, let's say, disturbance in people's mind, like we were turned from those periods like just means of production, nothing more, nothing less. And you know, it went at that time with colonialism, and I would say even slavery, the worst form of slavery. But the type of institutions, either political or economic, that the Belgian rule has put in place were institutions of taking things out. It was just turned out. So you go into the Congo, get things and take them out. Even today, when you come to Congo, Congo is a very big country, it's 1/4 the size of the US, just to give an idea, 1/4 the size of the US. You take a lot of European countries, you put them together just to have one country that we call the Congo. But when you come in Congo today, even though there have been some improvement for the past years, but still the number of tarmac roads is just insignificant. But only one road that up to today is maintained properly. It is what they call the national number 1 that crosses the Congo from, let's say, Matadi, where you have the port, or Boma, the international port that will take things out of the country, from that point to all the corners where they could collect anything. So if you are on that road, you see trees going out the country, like, every single day. This is the western side. If you go to the eastern side, you go toward Lubumbashi and then go to Kasumbalesa, which is the border with Zambia. That means also another way out. That road is well maintained. And you see on that road trucks and trucks of minerals every day, every single hour going out. So the economy that was developed and structures that were developed were just to keep that exploitation going on. But many people don't, again, I said they don't like that theory, but you tend to look at it seriously. It's like, for this exploitation to continue the way it is today, maybe you need a very weak kind of government or political system. You don't need somebody who is strong enough, who has their own eyes open to control, to monitor, and to give orientation about how business should be done in Congo. So it all goes into the black market. This is where you speak of corruption. You speak of all briberies, things that will never help a country to stabilize itself and to start building up itself. Never. So all what is encouraged is what actually fuels that system. On one side, you have a few Congolese, and I say again, a very few, who do not even represent the 1% of the population of the Congo, who profit from there. And again, profiting means just getting some small, petty money. But the big part of it, the most big part of it, goes outside. And then you have these international corporations, you have a lot of mining corporations that come in and have the most of it, and it goes. Now, green transition, or let's say green environment or green policies, means you are working on the stabilization of a space. You start thinking of sustainable development. Nobody comes here for the sustainable development of Congo. Nobody. And we have seen it. You can look at all these mining enterprises. A few of them would do a few things around, but not as one would think. And not even to talk about Congolese who are responsible either in politics or leaders in different sectors that will be concerned about. I'm not blaming only people from outside. I also look at what is happening inside. So that is very difficult, because when we talk about green transition, green environment, green policies, that means people who are kind of stable, they're focused, they know the importance of working in such environment for the people, not only for the local people, but also for the world. We have had the visit of one great world leader who has written a very big document, Laudato Si, Pope Francis, who said Congo is, and the Congo Basin is one of the lands of the world, and it has to be protected. If we destroy it, we end up destroying the whole world. But what is happening? with mining activities, but also with all those who exploit the trees and the forest, destroying that. So we end up not only the Congo is losing, but also the world itself is losing. So I am pointing out that policy that does not, at the end, it won't profit anybody. As on the mining enterprises that operate in Katanga, we have quite a number. When you go to the website of the CAMI, which is Cadastre Minier, actually it is the state service that actually overlooked the sector of the mining operations, granting people permits, and monitoring who is there, who is doing what, where they are they from. And normally they are supposed to be producing every year a picture of who is working in Congo, where they're coming from, the capital, the amount of money that they, but for the past few years, they are not updating the website. That means, again, that opacity I was talking about, you wonder who is entertaining it. But we have a few that they can share with you, like you have the Kamoa Kakula mine, which is in a joint venture with Infanoe Mines. And the Infanoe is Canadian. So you have the Shemaf mine, the Metalcol Frontier mine, the Kamoto Copper Company, KCC, the Tenke Fungurume mine, which is one of the biggest now. It used to be American. Now you have Chinese there who are working there. You have the Sino-Congolese, Sino-Congolese, which is the Siko mines. It is Chinese. You have Comus, Compagnie Minière de Musonoi. Again, you find there Chinese, the Mutanda Mining, the Congo Dongfang International Mining, CDM mine. So you have a number of mining companies that work there, and each has a different policy. But when it comes to things like environment or social corporate responsibility, some of these companies are very, very poor in those. But again, there is a kind of blame between them and the Congolese representatives, like those who are governors or, let's say, mayors of cities, because they are supposed to be receiving some amount of money, but they don't use quite well. So there are discussions that going back and forth, but you will never know who really has the biggest responsibility on those areas.
Wow, there's a lot there. And it has reminded me that book of Walter Rodney, when he talks about who is responsible for underdeveloping Africa. Somewhere, I think on page 27, Rodney says that the responsibility falls on Western powers or former colonizers for continuously and deliberately siphoning resources from Africa to their home countries, and also the African political elites for conniving into that exploitation process instead of developing their own nations and ensuring the resources benefit the common good. And that brings me to another observation. I'm just wondering, what should be done to transform this spree of exploitation? Because as we have mentioned, we're realizing that solutions to Congo's problem are not coming from the global north. For example, since 1999, we have peacekeepers in Congo. Up to today, we are still struggling with violence. What are they doing there? When our children, our mothers, our sisters, etc., are continuously displaced, sexually violated, working in these pathetic conditions in mining and wherever they are. And for me, whenever I come to Congo, those issues are heartbreaking. And gradually, I've lost trust completely in that international setup that they are going to protect Congolese. You remember, like the UN has that principle of the responsibility to protect, but our people are not being protected. And many times I'm tempted to think that it is high time that we take action to protect ourselves and to ensure that the resources benefit our people. I will appreciate your opinion on what should be done to transform the status quo of exploitation.
I think that is a very important, at the same time, a very big and complex question. This is where I tend to, like, at the same time say, yes, there is something we have to do and it is urgent. We have to get into doing that. And once I start developing it, I say, this is recreating the whole environment, actually, because it is like, there are a lot of biases, and you can take it from a chronological point of view, from the colonial times up to today, but also from a kind of, let's say, thematic point of view, not only years after years, but as you start looking at issues, it becomes very, very complex. I did my studies at the University of Notre Dame at the Kroc Institute, and there we have developed what we called the peace building, let's say systematic peace building, the peace building kind of will that takes into account all the sectors of the life of a community, being it local community or national community. What do you need actually to put in place so that the community can live together? And all, as I mentioned earlier, all these sectors are connected: education, health, politics, defense, when it comes to commerce, like business, everything is connected. And you have the impression that in Congo, it's like we have to start from the scratch. I would be as radical as to go to that point. When I look at our educational system right now, is really completely down. And the kids we are training today, those who will be responsible tomorrow, all what is in their mind is getting money and in whatever, at whatever cost. So it's like the basics of any educational system that wants to sustain itself and also help to build the country. You don't have those basics. When you go into the health sector, whatever. So, and when you go to the political sector, it's really completed. So I say we have to start rethinking the Congolese society. And here I take seriously what you say. We can't expect the Western world to come and help us, because we thought for long that people will come from outside, not only Western world, but also the countries around. There are many countries around, like today we are talking about the help that the movement, the rebel movement M23 get from Rwanda, which is a neighboring country, which is part of the EAC community, and Congo wants to be part of that community. You would wonder how a country that is supposed to be a member of your community, to use a family language, a country that is supposed to be your brother, you would do what a country like Rwanda is doing. It's not about size. It's about, if you have one mosquito in your room, you cannot sleep. It will take away your sleep. So, so that's why I'm saying we have to start raising that consciousness in Congo, that really it is our first responsibility. And we need to make ourselves respected by people. That means we need leaders who have that kind of vision. It's not about fighting the world. It's not about destroying the business, because everybody wants to do business with Congo. I heard not so long ago, the current leader of Tanzania, who took from Dr. Magufuli, who said, yeah, Congo is a big market. We have to do biashara with Congo. We have to do business with, and everybody is rushing into Congo. So it's not about refusing people to get into here. some people thought it was a curse. I don't think what we have is a curse. It is still a blessing. It is still something great, but it is upon us now to start thinking on how to start dealing with all the people who come in the house to start doing business with us. That means we need leaders who have vision, clear vision of what it means to be a leader of a country like this one. You know, we are not like the Comor Islands. We are not like a small, small country that even people don't know about. So people are not even interested. Everybody, everywhere in the world, want to do some kind of business with Congo. The situation right now, unfortunately, is like unscrupulous people feel it is the best situation for them to do business because they will come, get the most, but pay very little in terms of exchange. So they say, so long as that can stay, they will stay and keep that status quo. They don't know, they don't want peace in Congo, because if you want, do you have peace? You have stable institutions, everything works fine, and then they will still get the minerals, but they won't get as much money as they are getting right now. And that is a very serious problem. So we need those leaders in the Congo who will start thinking about how to uplift the conditions of the Congolese and the Congolese state as a structure, but also have investors as other partners coming in, and we deal with them on the same kind of stand, not like those complex that we are dealing with people right now. And this kind of leaders we are still looking, and I don't know where we find them right now. I know people are there. Politics has its own reality, and it has its own reality in Congo. Right now, people are fighting for the elections for next December. And we have a few guys aligned. Some have those claims and pretension that, yes, they have those kind of ideas, and we are kind of looking at who is who. And at this point, maybe who is the lesser evil that can start helping people at least to rise a little bit, to take again the country back on the track with resurrecting some structures. And I insist here on the educational side. Our educational system is completely down, completely down. You will not find, like kids finishing their secondary school in Congo and put them like guys of the same age and level from Senegal, from Kenya, from Tanzania, and have them have a discussion on a topic. It will be just a disaster on the Congolese side. So somebody who realizes that there is no way we can build a country without proper education. There is another challenge we have, which is very urgent actually, of creating a robust national army. Congo is very rich. It has all these what attracts people, but it does not have anybody to protect it. You have things in your house, you have all the good. The first thing people think of is security guards. And there was that injustice, thank God, it has been lifted up about the embargo. How would you impose an embargo on a country like Congo for years and years for reasons that nobody understands, that they cannot buy and get equipment? Now it has been lifted up, and then it is now upon us to not only buy all the equipment that is needed, to put again in place those structures of training people who should be in the security services like the army and police and all these things. We so far have very poor institutions that prepare leaders of tomorrow. The ones we have are kind of self-training charismatic leaders, but not those very strong school and those very strong tradition that will create those kind of leaders. And eventually starting to work on the structures that are there. This is just to say, if we start identifying and let's say defining clearly what are the sectors. It is everything. It is everything. So, and then I say, to start that, we need those kind of leaders. And I know, I'm pretty sure, I know uh, Congo is very rich in everything, even human kind of regions. We have a lot of people who are educated, who have gone around abroad, who came with a lot of knowledge and education, those who can do politics. But I suspect, and this is why where again I come back with this, there is a certain power outside there that is now very, let's say, curious to know who would take power in Congo, whether that person is favorable to their business or not. So some people are favored because, you know, it's like door open, people can do whatever they want. But it's like that kind of policy, this is why I come now to international policy, that allow people, allow the Congo to be a country, a lot of hands, you know, control, and is like kind of does not allow the country itself to develop what its own in terms of policy, in terms of vision, in terms of, you know, what we want for ourselves. So it's like, again, our guest who came here and he used that very strong statement, take your hands out of the Congo. Please feed these people, let them do their own things. And I'm pretty sure if we have that kind of, you know, hands out of the Congo, the local pressure, because our civil society is quite strong, there are institutions that are well organized, that voice their concerns, but they're not heard because these people in power, they know they depend more on people outside than on the people that they have to respond to. But if these hands are out and our voices continue to be heard, the Congo, I'm pretty sure, will make enough pressure to these our leaders to know that they cannot continue with the game they are playing today, which is a dangerous game, not only for the people, even for themselves. We have seen families of former presidents, even former ministers, after they have left power, they become like nothing. That means nothing protects nobody there. But what we think of is structures that really, once they are in place, even though you are not in power, you can still profit from what we have built before.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for that. And I like it how you have emphasized the importance of leadership, because without that, progress, development, peace, and security cannot happen. But you have also reminded me how history repeats itself, because back as soon as Congo gained independence, Patrice Lumumba, who was asserting for political and economic independence, was assassinated and instead was replaced by Mobutu Sese Seko, who was ready to continuously serve the interests of foreign exploiters. And it seems like from what you have said, that trend has not stopped. And I think it goes back to what we have been saying up to today, that the Congolese will have to liberate themselves and not anybody else. And I like the emphasis you have put on educating people, educating our children, especially with the values, starting with leadership, but also the values that are rooted in our culture. Because you remember when we talk to our parents, they focus so much on the common good, on hospitality, care for the environment, care for everybody. I remember as kids, we used to play around and every elder could really educate you. Instead, today, we have become so individualistic, and with that individualism, we have lost that collective consciousness. And without that collective consciousness, I fear that we are not going really to work towards developing the country. We are working towards developing individuals and developing one's families. And in that way, then we can easily be exploited, because that takes us to that colonial narrative of divide and rule. As we conclude, what will be your last statement to anchor our conversation?
Always difficult to find the last statement after such let's say vibrant conversation on very deep and important issues. I'll come back to a few elements that we have shared and discussed and that we've just mentioned. We have value systems that are on. They're there. We have people who are ready and actually willing to enter into on board and start working hard. We have all that nature has blessed us with. We talk of minerals, we talk of waters, we talk of, you know, what the environment gives us, the trees and all sorts of plants. The fauna and flora of Congo is just florist, colorful. We have all the ingredients. All what we need, as I mentioned, is that consciousness. You just mentioned something that is important. I think that which is a very big and good key for people even here to understand. There is no way we can build this country if we continue to reflect in terms of individualism. And that individualism can even take groups when it comes to tribalism. You think that whoever does not speak my language or tongue is my enemy. That is one of our big weaknesses. It's about thinking of us as a community, national community. And when I'm working here, I work also for the betterment of all the people around me. What I can do here, I can accomplish. Not only myself, I will profit from it, but also people around me will profit from it. And when it comes to the governance of these natural resources that we have been blessed with, that are there, it is a given just to realize that, yes, many people have raised their voice that Congo, you cannot just use all these yourself, and there is no way Congo can use all this itself. But how can this profit to the Congo and the world outside the Congo without destroying the Congo? And this is where we look at each other as partners. We are agents of our own development. Others who come are partners into this development of our own, but also theirs. And all what we have, we don't need to continue seeing this blood and the dirts that come with it. We need to see life flourishing, and it is possible. It is possible to do this kind of business, clean business, proper business that uplifts everybody. Congo as a country, but also all the partners or the friends that come in also to lift them up. And I think that, is possible. And this is why we think we can continue to work for that, and especially to empower the youth to take that consciousness to work for that kind of future, which is very possible for us and for the world.
Thank you so much. This has been a very enriching conversation, and we'll continue next time. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much, Professor.